Part 9. I Can Break the Dimensional Wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 81. After staying in the real world for a while, Xiaoruo returned to the world of Inuyasha. Miss Chun, I'm back. The two sides had a tacit understanding and didn't ask any more questions. Xiaoruo and Chun embarked on the journey of Yunyu again. The perfect connection between reality and the world of monsters, animation, fighting monsters, wandering, camping. My summer vacation life is a bit too rich. When Xiaoruo and Chun were walking together on the road, they came across a very solemn temple in a very remote place. Since we have come across a temple, let's go in and enjoy some incense, Xiaoruo said to Chun, looking at the temple in front of him. After hearing Xiaoruo's words, Chun did not respond directly, but looked in the direction of the temple, frowning slightly. No, there is a bloody smell in the air, there may be an accident inside, let's go in and have a look. Good. When Xiaoruo and Chun walked into the temple, Xiaoruo really smelled a strong smell of blood. The disgusting smell made Xiaoruo couldn't help but want to vomit. Go to the main hall to have a look, Chun said, and walked straight to the main hall of the temple, but after Chun walked in, he saw two acquaintances in the hall of the temple. Kikyo and her younger sister Maple. At this time, Kikyo was standing in front of a pile of corpses with his hands clasped together, as if mourning the dead. Kikyo, I didn't expect to meet you here, it's really fate. Tsubaki's face turned cold the moment he saw Kikyo. Tsubaki, long time no see, Kikyo replied without raising her head. But Kikyo's younger sister, Feng, saw Tsubaki and hid behind Kikyo's sister in fright. Miss Chun, have you met someone you know? Xiaoruo also came in at this time, but after Xiaoruo glanced at Kikyo, he didn't care because he focused his attention on the ground of the temple hall. It's too tragic. There were 6 or 7 corpses scattered all over the ground. Each corpse seemed to be torn apart by a huge beast. Some were missing half of their bodies, some were missing half of their heads, and some even had their heads and stomachs inside. Everything spilled on the ground, there were broken hands and legs everywhere, and the ground was stained red with crimson blood. This tragic scene had a great impact on people like Xiaoruo who lived in peaceful times. Witches are used to seeing death and can talk in this kind of place, but Xiaoruo's face became ugly, feeling disgusted. It was getting heavier and heavier, and the pungent smell in front of his nose kept the urge to vomit in his throat. After all, he had only seen the corpses of monsters at most before. Such a living human corpse, or such a tragic death, was still too exciting for him. Chun quickly noticed this, and put his hand on Xiaoruo's shoulder worriedly, with a hint of concern in his tone. Are you okay? You may not have seen this kind of scene, go out and have a rest first. Okay, I'll go out first. Xiaoruo didn't try to be brave, he continued to stay here, really afraid that he couldn't help but spit it out. Xiaoruo directly exited the hall and went outside for a breath of fresh air. After Chun watched Xiaoruo leave, her face returned to a cold expression. Kikyo finally raised his head, looking at the scene with surprise. After all, she knows Chun, and Kikyo knows what kind of person Chun is. It's really not like her to care about a man like this. Could it be that? The boy just now seems to have been well protected since he was a child, and he has never even seen a dead body, Kikyo said softly, with a hint of curiosity on his face. What is your relationship with that boy? Humph, it doesn't matter. Feng had no expression on his face. Kikyo suddenly recalled the last conversation between Tsubaki and herself after cooperating with Tsubaki to eliminate demons. Are you sure you don't want any reward? Tsubaki asked Kikyo, taking the reward that the villagers gave just now. Well, you just take it? Really, that's really embarrassing, Tsubaki said without any extra expression on his face. Kankyo, I'm also a wandering priestess, let me give you a word of advice. A priestess can only exert her strength if she abandons the heart of a mortal, and since she is a woman, may fall in love. Love, do you think I will? Kikyo responded coldly. Don't forget, never fall in love, don't fall in love with a man. At that time, Kikyo remembered Tsubaki's warning to herself in the end. Kikyo looked at Tsubaki at this moment and shook his head. It may be because I think too much, as far as Tsubaki in my memory, it is absolutely impossible to like a man, because she herself is that kind of indifferent person. I must have thought too much. Kikyo gave up thinking about those superfluous things. Chun looked coldly at Kikyo, and at the same time looked at the corpses on the ground, frowning slightly. Indeed, there were too many corpses on the ground, and this scene was indeed too tragic. What happened here? It should have been attacked by a monster. I just came here too, and I haven't seen the monster attacking here. It seems that the monster has escaped. Kikyo shook his head. Feng, move these corpses out with me and bury them. Good sister. Feng nodded in response. Kikyo looked at his younger sister Feng with some distress. Obviously, his younger sister should be like ordinary children, living like ordinary children, but now she can only be like herself. She has seen too many deaths, and even buried countless corpses. Kikyo seems to have seen Maple's future, and this child will become a priestess just like herself, and spend her life miserable and lonely. I'll also come to collect the corpses together, Chun said. After all, she is also a witch, and it is impossible for these corpses to be abandoned here like this, ready to move them. But at this time Syaruo came in again. He had just left the hall and was just standing at the door. He could hear the conversation inside clearly. Hearing that Chun wanted to bury the body, Syaruo couldn't help but come in. Miss Chun, let me help too. Huh. You are not suitable for this kind of thing. Since you have never seen this kind of thing, just wait outside honestly. If you can't do it, don't be brave. Chun couldn't help but stretched out his hand and pushed Syaruo out. I couldn't accept it the first time I saw it, but it was much better the second time I saw it. You told me to do nothing like this. Watching Miss Chun carry those corpses by herself, I really... Don't say it, don't say it, what are you really? I've said it, don't be brave, your face is so ugly, why are you brave? If you really want to help me, go dig a hole. Syaruo and Chun argued outside the door for a long time. In the end, Syaruo accepted Chun's suggestion and went out to dig a hole by herself, leaving the work of collecting the corpses to Chun. Kikyo watching the scene from the side. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 82. Although Syaruo said that she was going to dig a hole, with Tom's help, the digging was actually done in a few minutes. After that, Chun and Kikyo collected the corpses and buried all the remains of the corpses properly. After doing all this, Syaruo and Chun decided to stay temporarily in this temple at night. It happened that Kikyo and her sister had the same idea. Although Chun doesn't like Kikyo very much, the two are acquaintances after all. They haven't seen each other for a long time, and they still have something to say together. Syaruo doesn't want to eavesdrop, so she can only play with Tom boredly. However, Syaruo found that Zhejian's younger sister, Feng, had been looking at her curiously. The little girl looked timid, wearing very plain clothes. Although Feng looks pretty cute now, she still became a witch in the end. 50 years later, Feng ended up with injuries all over her body and lived alone all her life. Little sister, do you want some candy? I have candy here. Syaruo took out a big white rabbit toffee from her pocket, and waved to Feng who was looking at her. Feng shook his head, not greedy for the sugar in Syaruo's hand. What about cats? Do you like cats? Syaruo picked up Tom on the ground again, and shook it at the little girl. If you like it, you can come and pet it. Meow. Tom rolled his eyes. It has now realized its status as a tool cat. Since life is like this, It can't resist. Children like cute creatures very much. Seeing Tom in Sioruo's hand, Feng's eyes lit up. Mr. Cat. Come on, you can touch it. It seems that she really thinks that Sioruo is a good person, or that her sister is not far away. Feng is not very afraid of Sioruo, she really can't resist the temptation to touch the cat, and slowly approaches Sioruo. Feng stretched out her little hand and stroked the top of Tom's head. Meow. Tom yelped in agreement. So cute, Feng kept stroking Tom's hair. Little girl, what's your name? Sioruo asked Feng. Maple. This name sounds really nice. My name is Sioruo. Looking at the innocent Feng, Sioruo stretched out her hand and handed over the big white rabbit milk candy that she just took out. There is also sugar, let me eat it, it's delicious of. Thank you big brother. Feng felt that the big brother in front of him didn't look like a bad person, so he took the candy from Sioruo's hand, peeled off the paper and put it in his mouth. Tasty. That's right, I still have some here, and I'll give them all to you. Sioruo took out some more candies from her pocket, and gave them all to Feng. Feng was a little embarrassed, but couldn't hold back Sioruo's enthusiasm, so he took all the candies Sioruo gave. Brother, you are so kind, but you are actually together with Ms. It's amazing. Children are children, and after Feng was bought by Sioruo's sugar, his relationship immediately became much closer. What's so great? Sioruo asked puzzled. That's it, isn't Ms. scary? Her eyes are so fierce, more dangerous than the eyes of monsters, the child said directly, expressing his thoughts directly. Well. Sioruo quickly looked in Chun's direction, and saw that she was still talking to Kikyo and didn't notice it. Sioruo was relieved. If Chun heard what Feng said just now, with her character, maybe will really take revenge. SHH, if Miss Chun hears about it, she will be angry. Feng quickly covered his mouth, and carefully glanced in Tsubaki's direction, but the toffee in his mouth was still biting. Big brother, isn't he afraid of Miss Chun? Don't be afraid, Sioruo smiled, although Ms. Chun has a bad temper and doesn't seem like a very easygoing person, she is still very nice to people who have a good relationship. Amazing. Feng felt that this was really powerful. If she went to spend a day with Chun by herself, she would probably be scared to cry. However, Ms. Chun's attitude towards Big Brother is indeed different. I also feel that Ms. Chun has changed. Really? What's changed? Sioruo asked Feng. The last time we met, I felt so dangerous. When we met this time, I felt that Miss Feng's frightening feeling was less, Feng said after thinking about it. Is it so obvious? That seems like a good thing. What are you talking about? Suddenly, Chun silently appeared next to Sioruo and Feng, and asked in a low voice. Tsubaki, who appeared to the side in an instant, looked like a ghost, and Feng was so frightened that he took a step back. Ahem, Sioruo coughed lightly, I just heard from this little girl that Miss Chun has become more gentle and kind. I think it's a good thing. Snort. Tsubaki just snorted and said nothing. Let's go, Feng. Kikyo also came over and took Feng away, but before she left, she gave Sioruo a curious look. She was the one who could notice Chun's changes the most. Because of this, she was even more curious about Sioruo. It was getting dark. The four of them had to rest in the temple at night, but fortunately, the temple had quite a lot of rooms, so they didn't need to be crowded together at night. They all slept in the meditation room of the temple monks at night. When Kikyo was cleaning up the room, Feng suddenly came over and handed Kikyo something. Sister, that brother gave me this, it's super delicious. What is this? Kikyo asked after taking a look at the white rabbit toffee that his sister gave him. It's candy, it's very delicious, sweet, and fragrant, it was given to me by that big brother. Feng peeled off another candy wrapper and gave it to my sister. Sister, try one. Kikyo shook her head. I don't like candy. Since you like it, you can eat all of it. She is still willing to leave good things to her sister. Okay. Seeing that her sister didn't eat, Feng knew that it would be useless to persuade her. By the way, that man, what did you tell him just now? Kikyo asked Feng. Oh, by the way, sister, that big brother is a good man, he just showed me the kitten and gave me candy. Feng unconsciously said nice things to Xiaoruo. Well, he does seem like a nice guy. What does it smell like? It smells so good. On the other side, Xiaoruo was cooking. Xiaoruo, who didn't cook often before, came to this world and prepared meals every day. From being unskilled at the beginning, to paying attention to the color, aroma, and heat later, she gradually changed from a cooking novice to a veteran. Barbecue or stew, it's all within your reach now. The meal is ready. Xiaoruo gently opened the pot and smelled it. Smell good. A pot of instant noodles is ready again. Xiaoruo poured Tom a plate of cat food, and the meal was ready. After cooking a lot, you will understand one truth, that is, it is easy to make instant noodles, and Sabeki also likes to eat, so let's keep instant noodles. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 83. After dinner and nothing to do, everyone was ready to rest. Because of the reason why I saw a lot of dead people today, Xiaoruo was not in the mood to chat with Chun at night, and she was still in the temple, so she didn't feel in the mood. But when Xiaoruo was about to find a room to sleep by herself, Chun stopped Xiaoruo. The monster that attacked the temple may not be far away. If you sleep in another room, if danger happens, I won't be able to take care of you. You can sleep in the same room as me. Good. Xiaoruo nodded and agreed. Anyway, I have slept in a tent, and it's okay to sleep in a room. Anyway, I have a sleeping bag. Night came soon, and when everyone was sleeping soundly, in the woods outside the temple, there was a pair of eyes exuding an evil aura, full of resentment, staring at the direction of the temple. Damn witch, you have hunted me down for so long and even put a curse on me. I've had enough, you're all going to die. I will let you die in pain. With a gust of wind, that spiteful eye in the woods disappeared. Under the moon, it seemed that there was nothing there just now. Early the next morning, everyone got up, and when Xiaoruo was washing up, she met Kikyo. The two just nodded and said hello. After all, Kikyo is also a very cold person, and they didn't communicate much. The monster who attacked the temple was not caught in the end, but Sabeki seemed to have a guess. She felt that the way the temple monk died was a bit like the monster she had been hunting down. When Sabeki was talking with Kikyo before, she knew that the monster that Kikyo was chasing and killing was the same as her goal. The two had a final discussion and were ready to cooperate to pursue that fierce monster together. Chun also discussed with Xiaoruo, and Xiaoruo didn't refuse. After all, eliminating demons is the most important thing. According to them, what they have been chasing and killing is a very mysterious monster. No one knows what the main body is. It has a human body shape and can pretend to be a human to live among ordinary people. It likes to transform into various forms and eat people among humans monsters. The concealment is high, the escape level is high, and the danger level is also high. Sabeki was able to track through the curse before, but one day it suddenly failed. In order to completely eradicate this monster, Sabeki and Kikyo chose to cooperate. In this way, the original two-person tourist team increased to 4. Riverside. Because of lunch, Xiaoruo went to the river to fetch water, but on the way to fetch water, Xiaoruo seemed to hear something. There are monsters, help! Help! There was a cry for help in the distance. Syoruo immediately put down the things in her hands, let Tom who came with her go back to report the news, and then ran towards the place where the cry for help came. Although Kikyo and Chun are not far from here, but now I go back to find them? Will waste time. He himself is not weak now, and he has the ability to travel through time and space, so he is not afraid. Syoruo clenched the knife in her hand. Following the direction of the screams, Syoruo ran for a while, and finally found the source of the screams. What he could see was a wide road and corpses strewn all over the road, and then there were several humanoid monsters killing people like crazy. Those monsters don't seem to be powerful, they are the bottom-level little monsters, but ordinary human beings have no way to threaten them at all, so they can only be slaughtered by them casually. Syoruo looked at the scene in front of her, and her brain instantly analyzed what happened here just now. A caravan encounters a monster while in transit. At this time, most of the caravan's guards were dead, and some of the remaining living people were running, and some were limp on the ground, as if they had given up resistance. The bloodthirsty monster still had blood in its mouth and a cruel smile on its face. To the monster, these ordinary humans were just food. Haha, I'm not full yet. In an instant, a monster rushed towards a middle-aged man who was lying on the ground. The middle-aged man was well dressed and seemed to be the leader of the caravan. Stop it! Syoruo couldn't sit idly by anymore, so she drew her sword directly, and immediately burst out her fastest speed under her feet, blocking the human before the monster's attack. With one slash, the monster didn't notice Syoruo who suddenly appeared, and his head was cut off. Huh! Where did the samurai come from? When the other monsters saw Syoruo who killed one of their kind, they didn't have the slightest fear on their faces. On the contrary, the murderous intent on their faces became stronger. It seemed that they were stimulated by blood, and the monsters surrounded Syoruo in an instant. No matter where you come from as a samurai, it is impossible to escape alive today. I'm going to eat you. After the little monsters surrounding Syoruo yelled a few words on the scene, they attacked Syoruo without saying a word, but ordinary little monsters are ordinary little monsters after all, but their physical fitness is much stronger than humans, but under Syoruo's sword, there is still no harm. One can only survive one knife. In less than 3 seconds, Syoruo withdrew the knife. The 3 monsters who had just besieged had all died under Syoruo's knife. Seeing that such a cruel monster was killed lightly by the people who suddenly appeared, the caravan members who were still alive were stunned for a while, and then all cried out, as if they didn't expect that they could survive. Thank you, Lord Warrior, for your help. Thank you, Lord Samurai. There are about 6 or 7 members of the caravan who are still alive. Among them, the middle-aged man who was directly rescued by Syoruo walked up to Syoruo wiping his sweat and thanked him all the time. Thanks to the samurai for the rescue. If it wasn't for the samurai, we would all die here. I really didn't expect that after traveling for so long, there would be monsters appearing today. It's okay, it's just a matter of raising your hands. Syoruo waved her hand, signaling that he didn't need to thank him anymore. But at this moment, the curtain on a carriage of the caravan suddenly opened. After Syoruo noticed it, she turned her head and looked over. He hadn't noticed just now that there was actually a carriage carrying people in the middle of the caravan full of goods. From the carriage, an extremely beautiful woman stepped out. The woman was wearing a bright pink dress with light makeup on her face, but judging from her appearance, she was even a bit prettier than the snake demon Syoruo had seen before. The beautiful woman's movements were not in a hurry. From the look of her demeanor, she didn't look like an ordinary woman. The woman glanced at Syoruo. For some reason, after seeing Syoruo's face, the woman's face was slightly pale. With a blush, she bowed slightly. Thank you, Lord Warrior, for saving me. You can go home with me, Lord Warrior. My father will definitely thank you. This is no longer necessary. Syaruo noticed that Chun and Kikyo seemed to have come over. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Zhazi Jumiao. Chapter 84. Miss Ying, are you okay? The middle-aged man who led the guard ran to the beautiful woman and asked with concern. I'm fine. Fortunately, a samurai suddenly appeared to save us. If it wasn't for you, I would probably die today. The girl named Ying patted her huge chest with some fear, and then looked at Syaruo. I don't know the name of the samurai yet. Syaruo. Lord Syaruo's swordsmanship is really superb. I just saw it in the carriage. If you don't dislike it, come back with us. It's just that I can let my father thank Master Syaruo. Ying looked at Syaruo's face, suddenly blushed, lowered his head again, grasping the hem of his clothes with both hands, looking like a young girl. Huai-chun. That's not necessary, I'm just helping out. Syaruo rejected Yingying's kindness, and he also noticed the girl's behavior. Could this be the story of the legendary hero saving the beauty and then being attracted by the beauty? Syaruo thought so. It's not that Syaruo is narcissistic, but that the girl's affection for her is very obvious. Speaking of which, the girl is really beautiful, with a touch of rouge painted on her face, soft hair and a delicate face, a bit like some. The star of the girl group is definitely a high-scoring beauty in terms of appearance alone. It's just that Syaruo felt a little uncomfortable when facing her. There were so many guards who were killed by monsters around them, and their bodies hadn't been buried yet, but this woman didn't seem to see them at all, completely ignoring those dead people. If it was because of cowardice and fear of seeing corpses, it didn't feel like it. Judging from her expression, it seemed that some guards died. Normal. At this time, Chun had already approached. What just happened here? Tsubaki asked while looking at the monsters and human corpses on the ground. The caravan was attacked by a monster just now, and I helped get rid of the monster. Syaruo explained what happened just now. Well, Tsubaki nodded, and then looked around for a week. When he saw the girl Yingying, Tsubaki's gaze stopped for a moment, but then moved away again. Kikyo came over with Feng. When she saw the monster's body, she found that the monster was killed by a single knife. Kikyo couldn't help but glance at the knife in Syaruo's hand. An excellent swordsman, Kikyo has another comment on Syaruo. Bury the dead, Tsubaki said, glancing at the surrounding corpses. Good. The people in the caravan recovered from the shock and started to help bury the corpse. Syaruo didn't stand still, but took up the task of digging the pit again. This time, because there were many ordinary people around, he was afraid of scaring them. Syaruo didn't ask Tom to help. However, when Syaruo was digging a hole, Yingying kept around Syaruo, circling around Syaruo. Master Syaruo, let them do this kind of thing. Lord Syaruo, I see you are tired, let me wipe your sweat off. No need, no need. Seeing Yingying's enthusiasm, Syaruo retreated again and again. Chun saw this scene not far away. Her eyes were cold, but she didn't say a word. No one knew what she was thinking. Sister, Miss Chun's eyes have become scary again, so scary. Feng happened to see Chun's eyes, and secretly said to his sister, a little scared. Really? Kikyo also looked back, just in time to see Tsubaki's cold eyes. Tsubaki probably wouldn't attack ordinary people, she's a witch after all. Really? The first time Feng said to her sister, there was a trace of doubt. But Feng didn't understand why Ms. Chun looked so horribly at that beautiful sister. Like, looking at a dead man. After all the corpses were disposed of, they were supposed to bid farewell to Firefly, but something changed. Although Syaruo didn't agree to Yingying's request and go back with her, she found Kikyo and Tsubaki and said that his father was recently cursed by a monster, and his father is now cursed, and he needs to ask a powerful witch to help his father lift the curse, and at the same time to eradicate the monsters who secretly murdered. After Kikyo heard the request, she agreed directly, and Tsubaki was only silent for a second before agreeing to the request. In this case, Syaruo could only go home with Yingying and her. But on the way, Syaruo still approached Chikyo, and asked in a low voice, "Miss Chikyo, do you think there is something wrong with that Yingying?" Huh? Chikyo was a little puzzled, but she turned her head to look at the direction of the carriage in the distance, and shook her head. "I don't think there's anything wrong with her. What's the matter, have you noticed anything?" Syaruo shook his head. He just felt that there was something wrong with that firefly, and there was no other evidence. "I suspect she is a monster, just a feeling, no evidence." "Feeling? She is a normal human being, and I can't perceive it wrong," Chikyo replied. "With her strength, it is impossible for the monster to be so close without being felt by her." "Is that so?" Syaruo nodded. "Thank you, Ms. Chikyo." Kikyo's spiritual power is much stronger than Tsubaki's, and even Chikyo can't detect any problems, so that Yingying should probably be just a person who is indifferent to his subordinates, but Syaruo didn't completely let down his vigilance. Even if it wasn't Yingying, there must be abnormal people or abnormal places in this caravan, Syaruo can be sure of this. It may be that Syaruo's body and senses have become more acute when the level reaches LV2. He always felt that there was something wrong with the monster attacking the convoy just now, but Syaruo couldn't find out what was wrong. "Forget it, the soldiers will come to block the water and cover it with soil. With Chikyo here, even if a big monster comes, there may not be any accidents." In fact, it wasn't just Syaruo who noticed the abnormality. Chun's gaze was also on the carriage in front, with a serious expression. "Just now I really felt that there were traces of being cursed by me on that woman's body, but it disappeared in an instant. Could it be that monster?" On the carriage at the front of the caravan, where no one could see, the corners of Yingying's mouth slowly curled up, and then curved into an arc that normal people couldn't reach, revealing a weird smile. After 2 hours, the caravan finally arrived at a city. It was a small town. The caravan stopped in front of the city. At the same time, the girl Yingying jumped off the car, and then walked to Xia with a happy face. In front of Ruo. "Lord Syaruo, I'm finally here. I'll take you to see my father." Well, although Syaruo agreed, Syaruo still deliberately distanced herself from Yingying. After arriving in the city, Syaruo found out that Yingying was the daughter of the city lord, and she just ran out with the caravan to play secretly. And the city lord of the city was cursed by a monster just before, and fell into a serious illness. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 85. Led by Yingying, Syaruo, Chun, and Chikyo arrived at the city lord's mansion. Maybe the city lord is seriously ill. The whole city lord's mansion looks dead, even the guards don't look very good looking, and the people around are all gloomy. After all, Yingying is the daughter of the city lord, and the city lord has no other children. When the city lord was seriously ill, Yingying was the same, and when she arrived at the city lord's mansion, Yingying also bowed slightly to Tsubaki and Chikyo. "I hope Miko-sama can save my father." "All right, Miss Ying, please take me to see the city lord. Tsubaki is the best at breaking the curse." Chikyo stays with Syaruo, Tom, and Feng, while Tsubaki is led by the guards to meet the city lord who is critically ill due to the curse. "My lord, the witch has brought it," a guard asked to the room of the lord. "Bring it in." "Yes." Led by the guards, Chun walked slowly to the Castellan's room, and then she saw the Castellan lying on the ground, dying. The city lord's body was full of death, and it seemed that he had been cursed for a long time. If he didn't lift the curse, he probably wouldn't be able to live for half a month. Tsubaki glanced at it and analyzed the situation at this time. But Tsubaki frowned quickly again, because she also felt a curse very similar to her own on the city lord, and it disappeared in a flash, exactly the same as the girl named Ying outside. Chun's eyelids moved, but there was no expression on his face. "Master Maiko, can this curse be lifted?" The city lord's face was already rotten because of the curse, so he wrapped it in cloth strips, so he couldn't even see his eyes. "Can." Chun replied lightly, and then the silver python Shikigami on his body appeared, biting the city lord's body, as if sucking something from the city lord's body, and soon, in Chun's eyes, the death energy on the city lord's body it dissipated. The city lord's illness was cured, the curse disappeared, and the atmosphere in the entire city lord's mansion became better, and the cloud that shrouded the city lord's mansion before dissipated. In order to thank the witch who saved his life, the city lord specially hosted a banquet for Chun, Syaruo, and others. "Thank you Maiko Tsubaki for your help, otherwise the curse on my body will probably torture me to death." Although the bandage on the face of the city lord sitting above has not been removed, his tone of voice and movements seem to be similar to those of normal people, but his tone is still a little weak. After Tsubaki heard this, she didn't respond. At the banquet, the city lord said a lot of polite words, but Syaruo didn't hear anything, because the girl Ying had been sitting next to Syaruo, her body was already half leaning on Syaruo's body. "Master Syaruo, come here, do you like this?" The young girl Ying kept bringing food to Syaruo with a gentle smile on her face, and made physical contact with Syaruo from time to time. During this period, Hotaru often looked at Tsubaki's position, seeming to be provocative, as if deliberately annoying Tsubaki. "I'll do it myself, just do it myself." Syaruo wanted to push Ying away, but she grabbed her arm and couldn't shake it off. The movements of Ying who was leaning on her side became more and more excessive, but Syaruo felt more and more uncomfortable. It was the kind of physical discomfort, as if her body automatically felt the danger and was rejecting this woman. This firefly really doesn't look like a human being. Not to mention the body's reaction to danger. As a girl, she didn't even look at Tom next to Syaruo, as if she only had Syaruo in her eyes. Syaruo was already extremely wary of her with this obsession. Chun, who was on the other side of Syaruo, didn't say a word, as if he didn't see it. He also turned a blind eye to Syaruo's eyes asking for help. The city lord looked at Syaruo, took a drink, and then left. "I heard that this boy saved my daughter, and my daughter happened to be interested in you. Since you were able to save my daughter from the monster, you must be a powerful swordsman. Boy, look at me. How about my daughter? Why don't you stay and marry my daughter? I don't have a son. When the time comes, this city can be given to you." "Father," Ying looked shy when she heard this, but she still secretly looked up at Syaruo, wanting to see Syaruo's answer. Kikyo put her gaze on Tsubaki's face, wanting to see Tsubaki's reaction, but she found that Tsubaki didn't even lift her eyelids as if she didn't hear anything. "You want me to be your son-in-law in this ruined city? Marry a monster? I'm sorry, I have no plans to get married now." Syaruo stood up and refused, and at the same time shook Ying's hand in disbelief. "Miss Ying, whether a man or a woman can kiss each other. You actually rejected me." Ying's eyes changed, the simple eyes just now became deep. She didn't expect that power, money, and beauty were all placed in front of this man, but he still refused. This was something she hadn't thought of before. Generally speaking, with one's own beauty, as long as you give him a little sweetness, a man will submit. Why is this so? Did the plan fail? Ying was a little unwilling, the resentment in her eyes flashed, her hand slowly approached Syaruo again. "Lord Syaruo, I..." Swish. A burst of light suddenly burst out from Tsubaki's body, and her Shikigami silver python came in front of Ying in an instant, opened its mouth wide, and bit Ying's throat. "Get up and roll down a few times on the ground. Firefly is dead." However, at the moment when Ying's head was bitten off, deep in Ying's eyes, there was a trace of pride in the success of the plan. "That's enough," Tsubaki said indifferently, and then walked to the headless corpse, looking at the girl who had just been killed by him. Monster, it's time to act. The corpse on the ground is still in the shape of a human body, without any change, let alone turning into a monster body as imagined. Ah! There were screams from all around, and the sound of guards rushing in. Seeing that Chun killed someone, Feng immediately hid behind Kikyo. Sister, Miss Chun killed someone. Don't worry, look again. Kikyo frowned and looked around. After she came to the city, she also felt uncomfortable, but in the current scene, it was indeed Chun who killed someone. The daughter of the mayor. Kikyo couldn't help but put his hand on the bow and arrow he had set aside. However, in Xiaoruo's eyes, just after Yingying's death, a white airflow was transferred to the city lord. Xiaoruo found that no one except herself seemed to see it. This plot, is it 36 bone spirits? You actually killed my daughter. The city lord roared, looking at Chun angrily. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Zheziwai Jumiao. Chapter 86. Come here, as the city lord called out, a large number of guards rushed in from outside, all weapons in their hands aimed at Chun. Xiaoruo's hand was already on the knife next to him, and while watching the city lord's performance, he had already confirmed that this was a round where they would fight among themselves. It's not just Yingying who has a problem, the city owner also seems to have a problem, but it is very likely that it is due to illusion, or the reason for the disguise, which cannot be seen through. How can we see through their true colors? Xiaoruo pondered for a while, and after thinking about the abilities she now possesses, she tried to inject the power of reality into her eyes. Using the power of reality to attack can shatter illusions. How about using it on the eyes? I did it when I thought about it. Soon, a blue light flashed in Xiaoruo's eyes. Opening her eyes again, Xiaoruo found that the world was different. Everything that looked like reality now turned into a two-dimensional painting style in Xiaoruo's eyes, and everyone in front of her eyes became paper. The look of the filmmaker. Xiaoruo also took a look at Chun and Kikyo. They were like real beauties, but now they have turned into two-dimensional beautiful girls. Very weird feeling. It's a bit like she went directly to the world of cartoons. Xiaoruo glanced at Tom, and suddenly found that Tom had changed from a British short cat to a long cat in the cartoon. It's amazing. But this is not what Xiaoruo wants to see. Adding power of reality to the eyes seems to be effective. What would it look like if we added some more? In one breath, Xiaoruo poured all the power of reality she possessed into her eyes. This time, Xiaoruo discovered that the world is still a two-dimensional world, but some details are different. For example, when Xiaoruo looks at Chun, she will find that there are more character setting tables on the top of Chun's head, such as name, gender, age, status, etc., but it may be that Xiaoruo's reality is not enough, so she can only see the front. Some attributes will not be seen later. Xiaoruo. This is too real, it's really two-dimensional. Xiaoruo shook his head. These were not what he was concerned about. He looked in the direction of the city lord. At this time the city lord also turned into a two-dimensional painting style of a weird man with bandages, and the name on his head read: the clone of the monster Firefly, Castle Lord's body. Xiaoruo turned her head to look at the surrounding guards, and found that although they were also two-dimensional images, the name column above their heads was still Monster Hotaru's clone, guard body. Monster Hotaru's clone, guard body. The guards of the city lord's mansion are all clones of monsters, so what about Yingying's body? Xiaoruo looked at Yingying's corpse. The headless corpse in the second dimension was still part of the body of the monster Hotaru. It turns out that everyone in the city lord's mansion is the clone of a monster. Xiaoruo finally understands the current situation. Take down this witch for me. Following the order of the city lord, the guards rushed towards Chun with their weapons, but the shikigami on Chun's body just flicked, and all the guards who were just ordinary people were blown away. Demon girl! Demon girl! Are you going to kill all the people in our city? Even if all the guards were knocked down, the city lord was not afraid at all. There was great anger in his tone, as if it was really because outraged by the death of her daughter. At the same time, the city lord's eyes were also on Kikyo. This witch killed my daughter for no reason, and I hope Lord Kikyo will help me take down this witch. With the legendary reputation and strength of Lord Kikyo, I will definitely be able to take down this witch in one fell swoop. Kikyo heard this, frowned and glanced at Hotaru's body, then turned to look at Tsubaki, and asked. Tsubaki, why did you kill this man? She's a monster. Tsubaki just said such a sentence lightly. Nonsense, how could my daughter be a monster? She is obviously a human being, the city lord said with a hint of sadness in his voice. It's because my daughter fell in love with your sweetheart, that's why you wanted to kill me, you demon girl. Even if I risk my life today, I will keep you here. Sweetheart. The city lord spoke so long, Chun seemed to only care about these 3 words, and glanced at Syaruo out of the corner of his eye. Kikyo also noticed Tsubaki's small movements, and felt a little helpless. She also wanted to defend Tsubaki, but now she really couldn't produce any evidence that could prove that the woman just now was a monster. If it was in the past, Kikyo felt that Tsubaki would not be able to kill people at will, but now Tsubaki is different from the Tsubaki she knows. A woman who is in love, Kikyo can't understand. For the sake of feelings, Tsubaki does blind things, is not necessarily impossible. Kikyo doesn't know how to deal with the current situation. Tsubaki, you've gone too far, Kikyo shook her head. She really didn't feel the evil spirit in that body, and if it was a monster, she should have exposed her body after being killed, but that girl died for so long time is still the appearance of human beings. Kankyo, don't you believe me? Tsubaki looked at Kikyo and asked plainly. Although it was a question, her tone seemed to be stating a fact. Now I can't find any evidence that she is a monster, and maybe your judgment is wrong. Kikyo shook her head and said, even if she is a monster, she must have evidence before killing her. It is hard to explain the situation now. After Chun heard Kikyo's words, she completely ignored Kikyo. She didn't want to say anything to Kikyo anymore, but Chun still looked back at Syaruo. Different from the indifferent tone to Kikyo just now, when Chun asked Syaruo, her tone was a little more inexplicable. What about you? Do you trust me? In fact, Chun didn't expect much from Syaruo's answer, because she also knew that what she just did seemed like killing an innocent person casually. Expectations. Syaruo looked at Chun. It seemed that Chun really wanted to know his answer at this time. Syaruo suddenly subconsciously asked back. What do you say? Humph, Chun snorted angrily. She didn't expect Syaruo to say such indecent words at this time. How do I know what you're thinking? It's such a good guess that I can't even guess it. Of course I believe Miss Chun. Syaruo smiled softly at Chun, then picked up the knife that was put aside, walked up to Chun, and made clear her position. I don't believe Miss Chun would kill innocent people indiscriminately. Since Miss Chun said that woman is a monster, then she must be a monster. Hearing Syaruo's words, Chun's heart warmed up. It's nice to have someone who believes in you wholeheartedly. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 87. The city lord with a bandage on his face didn't expect that Syaruo would still trust Chun like this. Even if he killed someone, would he be able to condone and cover it up? Young man, my daughter belongs to you who admires you. You also saved my daughter before. You know that she is just an ordinary human being. I was going to marry her to you just now, but she was killed by this demon girl. Aren't you going to avenge Yingying? The city lord shouted at Syaruo in a distressed voice. Didn't Ms-chan say that? She is a monster, Syaruo said calmly to the city lord, as if she was telling a fact. Okay, I can see that you and that witch are in the same group, you are the monsters, and I will fight with you monsters. The city lord picked up a guard's knife on the ground, and pointed at Chun and Syaruo alone. Rushed in the direction. It seems that an ordinary person wants to attack Tsubaki with a knife. I think you also have some problems. Tsubaki's eyes flashed coldly, and the Shikigami behind him flew out again, flicking his tail at the city lord. Stop! Kikyo can no longer sit idly by, she can't let Tsubaki act recklessly like this again. Kikyo directly raises her hand and shoots an arrow at Tsubaki's Shikigami, trying to stop Tsubaki's attack. But what Kikyo didn't expect was that the arrow with the power to break the magic was blocked by a knife. It was Syaruo who made the move. Boom! Syaruo flicked Kikyo's arrow with one knife. The power of breaking demons is only serious against evil things and monsters, but it doesn't have much effect on Syaruo, but the arrow is so powerful that Syaruo can only flick it lightly with all her strength just fly. At the same time, the Castellan was also thrown away by Chun's Shikigami. Coincidentally, the Castellan's head hit the corner of the table, and when the Castellan fell to the ground, there was no sound. Another person died. Syaruo saw clearly this time, after the death of the city lord, a white aura returned from the city lord's body to Ying Ying's body. What are you doing? Kikyo's expression became serious, and he looked at Syaruo and Chun with a bit of unkindness. They were killing innocent people indiscriminately. The city lord was only angry because he lost his daughter but wanted revenge, and then Chun was beaten to death. Kikyo feels that Tsubaki has gone too far. And Tsubaki saw that Kikyo was really shooting an arrow, and his expression was a bit unkind. Just now Kikyo wanted to shoot his own Shikigami, which was a provocation to himself. Tsubaki pointed the Shikigami's head in the direction of Kikyo, as if he was ready at any time. Attack! Jianju, what, do you want to fight me? Don't really think that I'm afraid of you. Tsubaki's tone was full of gunpowder. The two Mikos looked like they were about to make a move. Don't worry, I've found the monster. Seeing that the atmosphere was not right, Syaruo hurriedly stopped her. If Chun and Kikyo really fought, then the monster's strategy would really succeed, and if they did it, Chun would definitely suffer. Syaruo didn't want to see Chun get hurt. You found the monster? Where is it? Chun and Kikyo heard Syaruo's words and looked at him. Obviously there is no evidence to prove the identity of the monster. Syaruo walked up to Yingying's corpse and looked at the headless corpse lying on the ground. Yingying had just died not long ago. At this time, Yingying's body was still fresh and warm, and the wound was still bleeding, staining the surrounding area red. Floor. If you only look at the corpse, some people will definitely feel that a beautiful and young life just died like this. But Syaruo stared at the corpse, and raised the knife. He already knew through his eyes that this was a part of the monster's body. Since the witch hadn't discovered it, she must have a special ability to disguise, and there are quite a few monsters who are good at this special ability. But just now Chun bit off her neck with a Shikigami, but she didn't show her original shape, which means that this corpse is not dead yet, it is just pretending to be dead now, and the severed head is not dead, which means that, in general, physical attacks are ineffective against this monster. Physical attacks are invalid, so there is only real damage. Her weakness should be the white phantom that looks like a soul. Syaruo poured the power of reality into the knife in her hand, and cut down the headless corpse from top to bottom, directly splitting the corpse in half. From an outsider's point of view, even the dead are not spared. When the corpse was cut in half by Syaruo, a sudden change occurred. There were screams from the corpse, from small to loud, and finally loud enough to tear the room apart. This noise was full of unwillingness and resentment. Why, you can find me. Why, you can hurt me. Your knife, what's going on? Although the corpse on the ground was turned into two halves, it was still wriggling, but the wriggling range was very small, like a soft worm. However, after wriggling twice, the corpse was still healed together, even just now. The head bitten off by the shikigami was also sucked in and grew together. This process is completed in the blink of an eye. Ying turned into the beautiful look before, but her expression at this time was very terrifying, and her human face made an expression of a ghost. At this time, she stared at Xiaoruo with her scarlet eyes, and the hatred in her eyes can't hide it. Unexpectedly, I fooled those two witches, but I didn't fool you. When Xiaoruo heard this, she suddenly smiled, flicked the long knife in her hand, and shook off the blood of the monster that had just been stained on it, and posed in a very natural posture. At the same time, she began to talk about the scene. The only thing you did wrong was trying to provoke my Miss Chun. We have experienced life and death before. It is impossible for you to provoke me casually like this and succeed. When the monster Ying heard Xiaoruo's words, her face trembled with anger. She just wanted to provoke the relationship between Tsubaki and Kikyo before, but in fact, for Xiaoruo, she has always been a tool close to Tsubaki. Her previous plan was to deliberately get close to Tsubaki, to make Tsubaki feel her curse on her body, to make Tsubaki kill her clone, and then have a disagreement with Kikyo. So discord between you and Tsubaki? What a joke. I didn't expect this guy to put gold on his face like this. Chun heard Xiaoruo's words from the side, the corners of his mouth slightly curled up, but then disappeared quickly. Okay, Xiaoruo, I admit that I underestimated you. I didn't expect that my plan would fail because of an ordinary person I didn't care about before, but don't think it's over like this. I want to let you all stay today. Accompanied by a scream. A huge miasma vortex appeared behind the monster firefly. At the same time, the body of the city lord on the ground and the guard who had passed out lying on the ground turned into pieces of flesh, rushing towards the body of the monster firefly. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Zhazi Jumiao. Chapter 88. The huge miasma vortex directly blew through the roof of the city lord's mansion. The monsters that can manipulate miasma are all monsters with extremely strong evil thoughts. In the original work, Xiaoruo has also seen the villain Nariku with this level of miasma when he appeared on the stage. Neither the sun nor the blue sky could be seen, and the sky was dyed black. Chun, who realized something was wrong in advance, rushed to Xiaoruo, and the knot seal opened the barrier. At the same time, Tom also got into the middle of the barrier spiritually to avoid being corroded by the miasma. The effect of miasma is similar to that of poisonous gas. If ordinary people and livestock inhale it, they will die soon, but it does not have a great effect on people with strong spiritual power and ordinary monsters. On the other side, Kikyo also opened the barrier to protect her younger sister. The black miasma is like a tornado, eroding everything around. Houses, trees, all have been eroded clean, causing such a momentum. It is hard to imagine how evil this monster is. What a terrible miasma. This monster is no longer an ordinary monster. I didn't expect it to be able to disguise itself so well before. Tsubaki's face was very serious, and only after the monster firefly completely removed the disguise did Tsubaki feel what a huge wave of monster aura it was, and there were more pieces of flesh gathering around the body of the monster Hotaru. She was just an ordinary girl. Hotaru, a big and small monster, grew to a height of more than 10 meters in the blink of an eye, and continued to grow taller. It turned out to be like this. Chun felt the evil spirit around him, as if he had discovered something. What's wrong? Xiaoruo asked, puzzled. While maintaining the barrier to block the miasma, Tsubaki explained to Xiaoruo, before she disguised herself very well, but now that she has removed her disguise, I realized that there is no living person in the city. There is no living person in the city. It seems that everyone in the city was killed by her, and those we saw before are actually people controlled by her, or in other words, those human beings are actually just shells. This is a demon city occupied by a monster. Tsubaki is right, the monster Hotaru is a very special monster. Her ability is to change and clone at will, so she divided her monster body into countless parts, disguised as the human beings she ate, and formed a seemingly peaceful city, and then this demon city is like a big mouth, swallowing everyone who comes in. Of course, all the people who lived in the city before were eaten by her. It is precisely because of eating so many people that she now possesses such terrifying monster power. Her strength has grown so fast that even Tsubaki never imagined that the monster who was about to run away after being cursed by her before could grow into a monster. This is what it looks like now. Ha ha ha, even if you don't use tricks, you can't be my opponent. The monster Yingying has assembled all her bodies, and feeling the majestic monster power in her body, she has swelled up, and her original body has now transformed into a big monster with a height of nearly 50 meters. These are the results of her devouring humans over the years. However, the monster Yingying was still not satisfied. She clearly felt that she could be stronger, but she still couldn't reach the peak she wanted. Is it because Syaruo slashed me and got injured? Damn, ordinary attacks are useless to me, why can that person hurt me? What's wrong with that knife? The monster Yingying hated Syaruo to the extreme. I'm really sorry just now, I misunderstood you. Kikyo raised her head and apologized to Tsubaki. I didn't expect her to hide it so well that even I couldn't feel the existence of the evil spirit. Humph. Tsubaki just snorted coldly. She is different now, she doesn't care much about Kikyo, and just recently her temper has improved a lot, so she didn't blame Kikyo for anything. Looking at the miasma vortex constantly surging and condensing around, Kikyo raised his hand, raised his bow and arrow, with a holy expression on his face, and a calm tone. Miasma is just something I can restrain, so let me deal with it. Bow, knock, shoot. Swish. The demon-breaking arrow was shot out, and the powerful demon-breaking power shone and exploded in the dark miasma. The horrible miasma that was just like a tornado just now melted instantly like Bai Shui encountered a high temperature and scorching sun, and was purified by the power of breaking the demon. In a short period of time, the black sky returned to its original appearance of blue sky and white clouds. Just one arrow has such momentum. When Syaruo saw it with her own eyes, she couldn't help but growl her mouth in shock. She really deserves to be the strongest witch in this era. Humph, it's pretty good, Chun said flatly, seeing Kikyo showing such a small hand, as if there was nothing special about it. Cough cough cough. Hearing Chun's words, Syaruo couldn't help coughing twice, moved his gaze to the side, and had an embarrassed smile on his face. He knew that the person next to him probably wouldn't be able to achieve the effect just done by Kikyo in his lifetime. Is there any problem? As if sensing Syaruo's thoughts, Chun turned to look at Syaruo. No problem. The arrow that Kikyo shot just now is pretty average, and the visual effect is not bad. I think I can block it easily, but if it is Miss Tsubaki's Shikigami, I don't think I can block it. I think Miss Chun is better, Syaruo said sincerely. Puff. Chun couldn't help laughing when he heard Syaruo's words, but quickly covered his mouth, and then put on a straight face, pretending that nothing happened, but Chun's finger poked Syaruo in the dark waist. Nonsense again. I'm serious about it. Kikyo is actually not far away, so Syaruo and Chun's conversations, as well as small private actions, can be seen and heard. At this moment, Kikyo held the bow and arrow in her hand and fell into a daze. She wondered if she shouldn't have shot that arrow just now. The miasma was cleared, and the monster Hotaru had no effect. If the miasma was used as an attack, it would be of no use at all. If it was cracked, it would be cracked. Now she has collected all the bodies and has completely become a complete body. The monster Ying Ying is an evil ghost, and now it has become a 50-meter high monster. The only thing that makes her dissatisfied is that Syaruo's previous knife hurt her origin, making her unable to reach the strongest level. Peak condition. Kikyo looked at the monster not far away, bent his bow and took an arrow. Swish. Another demon-breaking arrow was shot out, but this time, the monster Yingying raised the hand to block the devastating demon-breaking arrow. Although her arm was seriously injured because of blocking the demon-breaking arrow, due to the special physique of the big monster, the injury is recovering rapidly. A yokai of this level, even Kikyo couldn't kill it with a single arrow. It's a little troublesome. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 89. This monster is too big. If it appears in other animations, it is estimated that Ultraman will jump out to compete with it. With such an overwhelming body shape and a huge sense of oppression, even if Syaruo were to cut it, he felt that it would take him a whole day to finish it. But Syaruo didn't feel scared. After all, this monster looks very strong. Maybe it has the strength of a big monster, but it is facing the two strongest witches of this era at the moment. The collaboration of Kikyo and Tsubaki. If they can't defeat this monster together, then there is probably no human being who can defeat this monster in this world. But obviously, the monster Firefly didn't think of this. Monsters are proud. They look down on the weak power of human beings at all. The same is true for the monster Yingying. It was humiliated by being chased and killed by weak humans before. This time it has gathered all its strength, and it will take revenge here. Which, you are all going to die. The 50th high body of the monster Ying took a step forward, and there was a feeling that the ground was shaking. It opened its mouth, and a black ball appeared beside its mouth. It looks like it is charging a powerful shock wave. The big monsters in Inuyasha usually release this kind of attack. Kikyo naturally couldn't watch it accumulate power like this, and shot another arrow, but this time, Kikyo's arrow was blocked by the monster with an arm. But at this moment, Tsubaki smiled slightly, because when she used Shikigami to bite off that human-shaped Hotaru's neck before, she also got her blood. That clone is part of the monster, so her blood is also the blood of the monster. The Shikigami behind Tsubaki spit out black liquid at the drop of blood, covering the drop of monster's blood. Curse. Thump. A huge heartbeat sounded from the body of the monster Hotaru. At the same time, the energy ball stored in the monster Yingying's mouth also dissipated. Not only was the attack interrupted by the curse, but its face was full of pain. Ah! The body of the monster Hotaru exudes black energy, and the body seems to be unable to move due to the pain, but it did not die immediately, but kept wailing. It seems that Tsubaki's curse caused great pain to it, but it did not completely kill its ability. Kikyo would naturally not let go of such a good opportunity. Raising her hand to take an arrow, even when shooting an arrow, her movements are still so elegant and quiet, but this time, Kikyo is aiming at the mouth of the monster Hotaru. No matter how powerful a monster is, there will be weak points in the body. Kikyo said, after accumulating power for 2 seconds, he shot the demon-breaking arrow in his hand, but this time the light on the demon-breaking arrow was different from the previous 2 arrows. This time the light of the demon-breaking power was even more dazzling. It seems that Kikyo used all his strength this time. The demon-breaking arrow shot smoothly into the mouth of the monster Yingying, who was still screaming, and at the same time, the demon-breaking power exploded in her head. There was no sound, only a blinding light. Starting from the head of the monster Hotaru, it was purified little by little, from the mouth, to the whole head, and then to the whole body. As long as it has demonic power, it can't resist the power of the demon-breaking arrow. Just now, the monster with such a huge body would shake the ground when it moved, and the big monster with majestic monster power was purified by the power of breaking the demon. Syaruo thought it would be a tough battle, but it seemed like it was over. It can't be said that the big monster is too weak, but Kikyo is too strong. Well, Tsubaki is also strong. But Syaruo didn't relax, staring at the direction of the monster yinging. This monster is different from ordinary monsters. If you think it can't be solved so easily. Syaruo stared carefully with her special eyes, watching the monster yinging's body being purified little by little. Maybe Syaruo's physical fitness has improved, and his eyesight and motion capture ability have improved, which really made him discover something abnormal. It was supposed to be a demon body that had been completely purified, but a piece of flesh flew out from its back. Not only was that piece of flesh not purified, it also flew away like a soccer ball that had been kicked away. Humph, I guess that you still had a hand. Tom, come. Syaruo beckoned to Tom, who was watching the show with a biscuit. Meow. Damn, hate, hate, hate. The piece of meat flying in the air kept chanting, his tone full of resentment and resentment. This piece of meat was the part that just escaped from the body of the monster yinging. It's a bit weird for a piece of meat without limbs and head to fly in the air like this, but its own ability is like this. As long as the will and soul are still there, the body is actually just a carrier. I didn't expect Kikyo's power to destroy demons to be so strong. I miscalculated this time, but human beings are human beings. Just attacking my body can't kill me. As long as my will is still there, I can regain my full strength again. Wait, Kikyo, Chun, and Syaruo, when I come back next time, I will kill you all and let you die in pain. Cannibalism. Even if I fail next time, I will have another time. One day, I will let you die by my hands. But at this moment, a familiar voice suddenly appeared next to the meat. Where are you flying to? The piece of meat was still flying in the air at this moment. At this time, an eye suddenly grew on the piece of meat that had nothing at all. It glanced in the direction of the sound just now, and then it saw a very miraculous scene. The person named Syaruo rode on a thin wooden stick and flew side by side with it, and there was a cat in front of the wooden stick. Meow. Tom waved his little paw, as if to say hello to the meat, and smiled at the meat. Let's be honest, cats don't look very good when they smile. We meet again, Miss Ying. Syaruo's tone and demeanor, just like the girl Ying met when the hero saved the beauty, did not change at all. You again. There was a trace of hatred and fear in the voice of the meat piece. It is now the weakest posture, and it is already the limit to be able to fly, and there is no ability to resist at all. It's me, Ms. Ying, give up, you can't escape. Don't want. Syaruo turned Tom, and then the magic broom turned and rushed towards the meat. Without the slightest hesitation, Syaruo slashed out with a sword, and directly split the piece of meat into two. What was divided into two was not only the meat, but also the white air that manipulated the meat inside. Why can you kill me? This is Hotaru's last voice. It's dead. It's just that it didn't understand until it died, that ordinary human weapons are useless to its own body, even the power of breaking magic can only destroy its own body, but why Syaruo's attack can directly destroy its own soul and will, directly kill yourself from the root. I can break the dimensional wall. Author, Zhou Jumiao. Chapter 90. Syaruo used a bag to collect the two pieces of meat that he had divided into two. Although it seemed that they were not moving anymore, he was still planning to take them back and cleanse the Platycodon, so that it was completely wiped out. Flying with Tom's stick, it didn't take long for Syaruo to return to the scene of the battle with two pieces of meat. Seeing that Syaruo came back, Chun immediately stepped forward to check whether Syaruo was injured. Kikyo looked at Tom curiously, this cute cat who has no demon power but can fly in the air. Feng was more courageous, and dared to go up and touch Tom's little head. Sister, do you want to touch it? This kitten is named Tom, very cute. Feng thought just now that Syaruo controlled the broom to fly, but now she still thinks Tom is just an ordinary cat. I don't need it. Kikyo has long since given up her hobbies of human girls and is determined to be a witch, so naturally she won't act like a little girl. However, when Kikyo turned his head to look to the other side, he fell silent for a while. Why did you chase after him alone? Aren't you afraid of accidents? What if something happens? Tsubaki said with some blame in her tone. Don't underestimate me. I saved you from a monster. You should know my level. Syaruo handed the bag to Chun. This monster just wanted to provoke our relationship, and I brought its last corpse here for you to dispose of. That monster is really bad, and even wanted to frame Ms. Tsubaki. Humph, Chun didn't even look at the bag Syaruo handed over, and the spiritual power exploded in his hand, burning the bag and the body of the monster inside to ashes. Remember to hide behind me next time, don't be brave. Okay, next time I will definitely listen to you. Kikyo. Speechless looking at the sky. At this time, Feng's curious voice sounded, Sister, why are you staring at the sky? There is obviously nothing in the sky. Look at the weather. Oh. After the illusion of the demon city was dispelled, what was exposed was a city that was almost in ruins. The miasma that erupted before had destroyed everything in the city. The day passed quickly, and it was almost dark in the evening. It was meaningless to start again at this time, and we could only look for a place to sleep at night. Syaruo searched for a long time, but only found a house in front of her that looked fairly complete, which looked like a nobleman's mansion. Tsubaki, Kikyo, and the other four chose to rest here for the night. Syaruo didn't look for any food either, she directly took the pot and ingredients from her own space, such as mutton, fish balls, vegetables, mushrooms, etc., and made a pot of hot pot. Because everyone is together, Syaruo also invites Kikyo and Feng to eat together, and Chun agrees. You're welcome, it's a specialty of my hometown, eat it, it's delicious, Syaruo gestured to Feng, letting the children eat first. Feng just gently picked up the chopsticks, and immediately felt the stimulation of the taste. Tasty. Eat more if it tastes good. Thank you big brother, Feng thanked while eating. Tsubaki and Kikyo still have nothing to say, but it feels that the tit-for-tat feeling between the two has eased a lot, at least much stronger than before. There was no major conflict between the two of them. Syaruo thought that having just finished working together, having a hot pot meal this time might be a chance to reconcile. In the original work, Tsubaki and Kikyo become enemies, mainly due to Tsubaki's problem as the villain, because Tsubaki is unilaterally jealous of Kikyo, and at the same time wants to get the Jade of the Four Souls to maintain a permanent appearance. Kikyo is usually quite indifferent, and when talking with Tsubaki, he is very cold, it seems a bit like looking down on Tsubaki. But Syaruo really felt that Kikyo might look down on Tsubaki at that time. After all, when the blackened Tsubaki cursed Kikyo's reincarnation Kagome 50 years later, Kikyo always had the tone that you would definitely fail, and even grabbed it with her hands. Tsubaki hair. Alas, the relationship between the two is still somewhat complicated. After this cooperation, Syaruo felt that Chun didn't feel jealous of Kikyo anymore, which is a good thing. As long as Chun doesn't have jealousy, naturally she won't follow the path of blackening in the original work. Having been in this world for so long, Syaruo really doesn't care about the plot of the original book anymore, it has nothing to do with her anyway. With bonfire, hot pot, and the company of witches, Syaruo is already satisfied with these. Eating hot pot with the bonfire really has a unique feeling. After eating it, everyone's body is a little hot. Although Tsubaki and Kikyo still haven't spoken, they feel that the relationship has become a lot closer. However, as Chun was eating, he suddenly began to pick up vegetables for Syaruo. Chun reached out and picked up a piece of mushroom that Platycodon grandiflora was going to pick up, and put it in Syaruo's bowl. Syaruo is a little puzzled, the hot pot is almost finished, and you start to add food for me? What's the matter, don't you like this? Chun saw that Xiaoruo paused when she saw that she was serving Xiaoruo's food, so she looked at Xiaoruo and asked. Like to eat? Well, then you should eat more. After hearing that Xiaoruo liked it, Chun began to serve Xiaoruo food again. What happened? Xiaoruo suddenly felt that Tsubaki was a little different today. Although her tone was still the same as usual, it was different, which Xiaoruo could clearly feel. In the past, it was impossible for her to make the act of serving vegetables. Against the backdrop of the bonfire, Xiaoruo could clearly see that Chun's face was red tonight, and it was unknown whether it was because of the hot pot or other reasons. Chun kept adding food to Xiaoruo, and Xiaoruo just ate it. Boom! What sound? Although it was very small, Xiaoruo's hearing became much stronger, and she just heard a strange sound, and then looked in the direction of the sound. It seems to have come from Kikyo. The sound just now, Xiaoruo guessed, might be the sound of gnashing chopsticks or teeth. In fact, the battle with the monster Hotaru this time not only made the relationship between Tsubaki and Kikyo better, but Tsubaki's feeling for Xiaoruo also changed. Especially when Xiaoruo had no evidence to prove that she killed a monster at the time, Xiaoruo immediately expressed her trust in Chun, and this trust had a great impact on Chun. Tsubaki used to be a witch who traveled on the tip of a knife. She has been alone all the way, has fought countless monsters, and has seen many deceptions, betrayals, and lies. This experience makes it difficult for her to understand what trust is. For her, trust is too dangerous and too far away, and it is easy to become a huge flaw. It is precisely because of Tsubaki's lack of trust that when Xiaoruo believed in her at a critical moment, the touch on Tsubaki at that time was not weaker than that of Xiaoruo's company all along. When eating hot pot with Xiaoruo at night, after the body heats up, coupled with the bonfire and the inexplicable atmosphere, Tsubaki's inner emotions can no longer be suppressed. Just tonight, Tsubaki had already made up her mind. PS1, my girlfriend sent me a message at night saying that I don't like her anymore, and asked me to find her. I thought about it, but I refused before updating, and came back to update the code word.